Welcome, everyone. My name is Emily Baker, and I'm here with my partner, Erin Simons. And today we're going to go through our Blueprint Quarter 1 listing success. So, Erin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, before we do, as always, anytime we're practicing real estate, let's just make sure we're TCPA and do not call compliant. Let's get that out of the way. And then, so Emily, I started selling real estate almost 22 years ago here in San Diego, California. I had the opportunity to join a team at that time. I was on that top producing team for 13 years, listing and selling over 1,100 listings during that time. We were averaging about 25 listing appointments a month. So I only say that, Emily, because I want people to understand that as you and I present today, we're not talking theory, we're not talking good ideas, we're actually talking what works from the trenches. So I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And everyone, I am out of Ozark, Missouri. So we've got California and then we've got the Midwest with me. And I got into real estate in 2013 and also was a part of a large team. And we were setting over 75 listing appointments every month and signing over 50. So all of our listing agents sold over 100 listings per year outside of industry. And so we're excited to talk about the best practices to get you guys going for 2026.
All right, so let's jump into it. So, setting up the ideal morning schedule, why do we start here, Emily?
Yeah, because what we have found, Erin, as we've been doing this a long time, is that the biggest friction point for agents is when they have vagueness on their calendar, right? So you may have heard the bold law, y'all, of, if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist, right? So you might put lead generation, follow up on your calendar, and then that can lead to some paralysis by analysis, right? It's like, well, what do I do, right? Or we start and then we get distracted. And so clarity is power. And so getting very specific with your schedule is what really leads you to success.
So, what you're saying, Emily, is if I have a 2 hour lead gen block on my calendar because I've been told that you should time block, that's actually not helpful, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Because if we have a 2 hour lead gen block and it starts at 9 o'clock and goes till 11, 9 o'clock rolls around, we look at the calendar, says, okay, lead gen, well, what the heck does it mean?
Yeah,
What the heck does it mean? So we've, taken what we think is really that ideal morning schedule. It's one that we have followed and still do. And we actually broke it down into meaningful bite-sized pieces. Almost, Emily, if you were back in school and you had periods, right? Where you went from a period, the bell rang, you transitioned. Now it's period two, the bell rings, it transitions, right? Because now we're just simply having those bite-sized pieces so we know in that legion block at each moment in time exactly what we should be doing, correct?
exactly right.
All right. Now this is a little bit of a Frankenstein. It doesn't have to look like this perfectly. However, it could, right?
Yep.
All right. So what do we start with?
Yeah, so first we want to start with 15 database touches. Obviously, we're TCPA, DNC compliant, right? And a lot of times, what people associate lead generation with is grinding out phone calls, right? Like it's, do 100 dials or do this. And what we find is that there are four ways to communicate, right? We have voice to voice, we have print, we have digital, and we have face to face. And so for us, we look at it and we go, lead generation, y'all, we just need to make it fun. Okay. Can we all agree that if it's fun, we will consistently do it, right? It's when it's, not fun, or you're dreading it that you won't do it. So 15 database touches, that could be text messages, it could be direct messages, it could be cards, it could be um, coffees, it could be calling, right? It's just connecting with the people in your database. Mind share leads to market share.
So bottom line is, it doesn't matter which method you like. We know that if you at least touch 15, you're going to be in good shape, correct?
That's right.
And for most of us, even if you were doing the one that takes the longest, which is calling, if you call 15 people, how many are going to answer?
Not all of them, that's for sure.
Yeah, five maybe.
Yeah.
So 45 minutes, maybe an hour max is all that's going to take you. Would you agree?
Yep. Yep.
And listen, if you were just going to simply do text or direct message or even handwritten note, 45 minutes more than enough time to knock out 15. Agreed? All right. By the way, what would that message be? Like, so just straight up, because people always say, well, if I'm going to call them, if I'm going to text them, like, what would I say? What would be like the generic, no fluff, right, version of that message each day to those database touches?
Hey, I'm planning out my 2026 as we've entered the new year. What real estate needs do you have?
And if they have none, what then do we ask?
Who do you know that I can help?
Yeah. So no matter which way you do it, right? The two pieces of communication are, do you have a real estate need I can help with? And if not, who do you know that's going to buy or sell that I should be talking to?
Yeah.
Right? And then depending on who you are and how you like to communicate, you can add as much fluff or forward or whatever it is you want to, whatever meat you want to put on that bone, you can do it. Everyone's unique and different. You can do it how you want to. But really, from a communication standpoint, those two things have to happen. Do you have a real estate need? Right? And who do you know that is looking to buy or sell that I should be talking to? All right. So why are we already taking a break, Emily? We've only been at this for 45 minutes and now we're going to take a break. Why?
Because you need to reset your energy, right? You hit 15 reach outs and you need a break, whether that's a loop around the building, whether that's refilling coffee, water, bathroom break. You just need to take a break.
So yes, reaching out to the database can be taxing no matter which way you do it. And we've learned this over time. So you got to take a break and then you come back at 10 o'clock, assuming you started at 9. And now we're going to transition to a different lead gen technique, correct?
Yep, that's right.
All right. So in this example, we have golden letters. Now, we're not going to get into like every single detail on how to execute on this, but why golden letters?
Golden letters are a great way to get sellers to call you. Okay. We have done the research. We know from personal experience and from, our coaching clients that we get on average a 1 to 3% response rate. So here's what I want you all to think about from a lead perspective, right? So Aaron, 25 letters a day, that's 125 letters per week, right? So 600 letters, 1 to 3%, you're going to get around 4 to 6 sellers for sure to call you. Now, these aren't all come list me's, right? So let's be very clear. However, Aaron, in your market, how much would it cost for a site like Zillow or someone to give you a seller lead?
Almost $2,000. In Southern California, a seller lead from Zillow would cost me $2,000.
In my market, it's around 6 to 800. So with that being said, let's call it $1 a letter, right? Because we have postage, we have ink, we have paper, we have envelopes, right? So let's call it $1 a letter. $600, right? If you were following 25 per day, would get you 4 to 6 responses, which generally leads to 1 to 2 ready, willing, able sellers.
So basically, I can generate that same inbound seller lead that Zillow would send me, but I'm only paying $100 for it, not $2,000 for it, correct?
That's right.
And people question all the time. I've got a stack of my golden letters. We do use labels, right? Right here on my desk. So again, this isn't theory, right? This is what actually works. And so we also know that it doesn't take more than 30 minutes a day to assemble 25 letters and put them in the mail.
Yeah. So what is the golden letter?
It's a simple letter, right? And again, it's going to show up blurry. Simple letter that says, dear owner, would you be interested in selling your home at 123 Main Street to a client of mine? Question mark. If so, please call me with your cell phone. You can sign it and off it goes.
Okay. What if you don't have a client?
Wow. What does Gary tell us every time we walk into a listing? The first question we should ask ourselves, should I buy this? Should I buy this? Now, so you are always a buyer of property. Well, I don't have the money. Well, do you have access to people that do? Emily, how many texts a day or a week do you get from investors?
I've already got at least 5 this week, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe you should start curating those and putting them into a little database of as your buyers,
Yep.
right? So even if you're not the buyer, you have a buyer. And by the way, in any given neighborhood, there's probably a home that had recently sold in that neighborhood, correct?
Yep.
which means one person bought that home, but how many buyers actually looked at that house for it to go under contract? At least 10, 15, right? So I can already guarantee you that in that particular neighborhood that you're sending a letter to, there's probably anywhere from 9 to 14 other buyers that didn't get that one that are out floating around. So we don't want to get too in the weeds on the whole golden letter system, other than we want you guys to understand that it is the most effective marketing you can do to have sellers call you. So 30 minutes a day is all it takes. 25 letters a day, 125 a week, 500 a month. That's going to be roughly 5 inbound calls. Yes, please. Okay, so we get our letters done, Emily. It's now 10:30. We pivot to a new professional, an email to a new professional.
That's right.
So why are we sending an email to a professional in my geographic area?
Because we know that 75% of the of sellers, right, are either boomers downsizing, families inheriting property, or seniors transitioning.
Hold
That's
on.
from the National Association of Realtors. So this is not made up. This is who they are based on demographics.
So again, 75% of sellers in your market are made up of either a boomer downsizing, a senior transitioning, or a family inheriting property, correct?
That's right.
And so, what professionals are on the front lines of that business and know about those opportunities before we do?
Well, you have estate planning attorneys,
Okay.
you have financial planners,
Okay.
you have CPAs.
Yes. Those are the big three, right?
Three. Yep. There's also tons of other professionals that you can go after from a demographic standpoint, but those are the big three for that demographic.
Yeah. Listen, some people enjoy, going after divorce attorneys,
Yep.
right? Some people, like going after reverse mortgage lenders.
Yep.
Some people like going after HR people inside of hospitals or large companies.
Abilities. Yep.
Yeah. But the bottom line is, Emily, if we were to send an email, just one email a day to a new professional we're not in a relationship with, and we have a great email, right? It's simple email, estate plan attorney needed, dear attorney, right? I've been selling real estate here in this area for however long. I've got a lot of clients reaching out with estate planning questions. Are you taking on new clients? Can we set up a time to chat? Simple email.
Yep.
That email, TCPA do not call compliant, right? That email converts at 4 to 1. Some people 3 to 1. So if I
Yep.
send 4 emails, I'm going to have one of them respond back saying, sure, let's meet. So if we send one a day, 5 a week, 20 a month, that's likely to set us up with 5 appointments to get into relationship with these professionals. And if we do that for the next 5 months, we will have now built a referral network of 25 professionals who are on the front lines and know about listing opportunities before we do, correct?
That's right.
And the reason why it's important to build it to at least 25 is because of the 80-20 principle. 20% of them will become great referral partners. The others, we're still going to be in a relationship with them, but it's the 80-20 principle. So if we build it to 25, we'll have 5 great referral partners, which also means anywhere between 2 and 3 listing opportunities a month coming our way if we're staying in relationship and following up with them on a regular basis. By the way, they're working the exact same demographic we talked about, right? Those estate planning attorneys, they are working with boomers downsizing, seniors transitioning, families inheriting properties. Financial planners, same thing. CPAs, same thing. And you all, going back to that email, Emily, which just simply says, hey, I've got a lot of clients reaching out with their professional needs. If you meet with a seller right now who's owned a property for 15, 20 years, what's the number one concern they have about their equity? How much will I owe in capital gain taxes? Who do you need to refer them to answer that question? A CPA. When you sell someone, when you sell a buyer a house, right? And maybe they're first time home buyer, young family, what's the first thing they should do? Establish a trust to protect the asset, correct? And once they establish that trust to protect the asset, they're not now, they might be protected such that they have a voice after passing, but it doesn't mean financially they're protected. They have homeowners insurance. Do they have life insurance? who would you reach out to for them to get a life insurance policy such that if one of them were to pass, if there's life insurance, there'd be money there to make sure they could keep the house that they protected? Financial planner. By the way, first-time home buyers, after they got done saving up for their house, what's the next big thing that they save up for after buying the house? Hopefully their kids' college, right? So the point I'm making here is that we all have an absolute necessity to be in relationship with these professionals. With these professionals. In fact, we probably have more business to give to them than they might have to give to us. So you have an absolute mandate to reach out to them and meet with them because your database, right, requires it. Sometimes people get a little funny about that, Emily. I just want to make sure like we have a mandate to reach out. We need these people in our network,
Yep.
right? We need them. We're helping people make huge financial decisions, right? And each of those decisions also needs one of those other professionals usually as part of the process,
Right.
whether it's upfront or on the back end. But the bottom line is one email a day, 5 a week, 20 a month. That should be 5 new relationships a month. You do that for 5 months straight, you build it up to 25. It doesn't mean you stop there, right? But you build up to 25, you can now count on that network giving you 2 to 3 listing opportunities a month. Which, by the way, how much did this cost so far? This
Nothing.
network? Zero. How long does it take to actually send an email?
Less than a minute.
But we gave them 15 minutes. We're agents. Come on. We're probably going to get stuck scrolling, and have to like pull ourselves back from social media. So we built in a little bit of a cushion. By the way, Emily, best way to find those professionals?
Google, AI.
Google, estate planning attorney in your city. It will give you a year's worth of people to go get in relationship with. All right. Wow, pretty busy day so far. We've talked to our database. We got our golden letters out, right? Again, we're not messing around. This is something we do, right? We've actively built our referral network. Now what do we transition to?
Yeah, so now we go to pull off markets. So off markets are also known as expireds or canceled. And if you decide, again, there are multiple ways to communicate. So your best practice be to mail them or door knock them. Um, if if you have a target market, meaning a farm area, or a specific area that you like to focus on, whether that's a zip code, streets, right, a radius, um, we absolutely should pull off markets in that territory to reach out to see how you can help.
Yeah, and like we said, there's more than one way to communicate.
Mhm.
Just because we're pulling off markets doesn't mean we got to grind out phone calls, right? It could be door knocking, it could be social media, it could be direct mail. Yet, if this is something you want to go after, boom, we have it right here in the schedule. All right. So then we transition to the farm. What are we doing here?
Yeah, so the farm is just knowing like what new inventory has come up, right? Has there been any expireds, canceled, withdrawns? Has anything else went pending? Has anything closed? This is just important for us to know because again, if you have a farm, it's our responsibility as the economist of choice is to know every single day what's happening in the market, right? So you might even pull up a site like Zillow and see, okay, are there any new for sale by owners or make me moves or anything like that in that territory, such that you not only know what's on the MLS and yet everything that's for sale in the market. It's our responsibility.
And by the way, if you don't have a farm and you want to have a farm, what should be the first place you look?
Your neighborhood.
So obvious, right? We should all be the chief farmer of our own neighborhoods that we live in. Okay, now we take care of the farm. Last thing on lead gen is social media. Why do we put that last? Why don't we start with that?
Because social media can be the black hole, right? It can be distracting. So we don't want to go in scroll mode and then not do anything. So we end with social media such that we don't get distracted.
Emily, I would say the number one challenge that agents have with social media is that they're being entrepreneurial and not purposeful. Would you agree?
Yes.
Listen, you're all out there, you're all on it, but for a lot of you, you're shooting from the hip. You haven't taken time to actually think through, a weekly or monthly strategy on what you want to post or how you want to post. And so, Emily, we talk about just a very simple technique, right? Such that you can become more purposeful versus entrepreneurial. And it does take a little bit of planning, right? But each week, if all you did was you took 15, 20 minutes to brainstorm on what you want to post for that upcoming week, just doing this one exercise, right, will change the whole strategy completely. And in order to brainstorm, we recommend that you really think about your social media in four buckets. And by the way, it doesn't matter what platforms, you have four buckets. You have bucket number one, Emily, which is your general real estate. Just this is just sold, open house. Look at this house I'm walking through, rates, right? That's like your general real estate post. The second bucket would be community content, community information, because we help people in communities. There's stuff happening that, we want to be the go-to person when they move into a community. They're asking you, "Hey, where should I go, whatever," right? So you have community content, right? From vendor spotlights to, what's happening for the weekend, community content. Third bucket would be your niche. Is there a certain niche that you work? We talked about boomers downsizing, seniors transitioning, families inheriting property, but your niche might be move up. Your niche might be military. Whatever I was talking to someone yesterday and he's like, I don't have a niche. I said, well, give me your last six sales. And his niche was the D's. Every single one of them, it was a D that, the D's, right? Death, divorce, disability, diapers, diamonds, deployment. I said, dude, your niche is you're helping people when life is happening. Your niche is the D's. Anyway, and then lastly is just your personal. What'd you have for lunch? No, we don't want to know that. Whatever. What your dog? I don't know. It's just personal. So, Emily, if you take 15, 20 minutes each week and you brainstorm in those four buckets, five things that you could post, right? After that, you'll now have 20 options. You go five in real estate, five in community. By the way, community is simple. Go to ChatGPT. What's happening in my community this week, right? Five on your niche. Same thing, right? Use ChatGPT. It'll give you ideas. And then five personal. You now have 20 opportunities here that you can go through and pick the ones that you think you can execute on. And then you just decide, is it going to be a static post, an image, a video, an article? And now, and now you're going to be well more prepared to be purposeful in your social media versus shooting from the hip each day, right? Randomly getting stuff out there as it comes at you. So, but again, if we're going to get that post done, we have to do a little bit of the planning ahead of time. Same with all of it, right, Emily?
Yeah.
If we're going to hit our database 15 a day, we have to have thought through ahead of time. Are we going to do DTD2 or are we just going to go top to bottom? If we're going to do golden letters, we have to have planned ahead of time, downloaded a list, merged it such that all we're doing is printing, stuffing, and addressing and stamping, right? Same thing with the off markets. Do we have that set up as a search, the farm, and then social media? So, Emily, to execute on this schedule each day, you do have to do some planning ahead of time in order for it to flow smoothly. Would you agree?
Yes.
But if you did, right? If you did these five things each day, small, like not, is any of this, I mean, outside the database, okay, fine, I get it. Making those 15 things might be hard, but is any of this like hard or heavy to execute
Mm,
on?
nope.
But that consistency over time is what creates the leads for the listings. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, the last point on there is the follow-up. Why do we put follow-up last, separate from the first points, which are lead generation? It's because do not collapse your follow-up with your lead generation. Lead follow-up is people you've already identified that you're now moving through the process. Emily, too often agents want to consider their follow-up their lead generation, but no, 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 they're two separate things. Lead generation, lead follow-up, don't collapse those two.
Yeah.
Follow-up is what we finish with. Before we move on, any questions from you guys out there, whether you want to raise your hand, put it in the chat, any questions about this ideal morning schedule? You can customize it any way you want to implement this schedule. What's the biggest pitfall?
Yeah, so follow up is the leads that you're already working. So maybe it's an appointment that you went on and they didn't sign, right? So that could be considered a follow up, right? Maybe it's somebody that you spoke to and they were a couple months out and you have a task in Command now, or whatever CRM that you're using, as a reminder to circle back with them. So follow up is people that you've already connected with. You're nurturing the relationship. To when the time is right for them. Uh, Lead generation, this is new.
Finding new opportunities.
Yeah. Not your database wouldn't be new. But it's identifying new real estate needs.
Thomas, you asked, does a golden letter require letterhead? It doesn't require letterhead. We just put our business logo at the top. We do the Keller Williams logo and the signature line. Could you leave it blank up top? Of course you could. Could you just put KW up top? Of course you could. The key with the golden letter is don't change the verbiage. Don't add to the verbiage. It's not a marketing piece. It's a one-to-one communication, right? It's an intimate letter to the owner of that house, right? Dear Emily, would you be interested in selling your home at 123 Main Street to a client of mine? Question mark. If so, please call me. You're with your cell phone number. Sign it, envelope. There is a bit of a debate whether hand addressed or label. I find labels are working fine. If you want a hand address, you can. Return address, optional, and then in the mail it goes. Yeah, so great question on how would you customize the morning schedule if you're calling off markets, TCPA do not call compliant, of course. You would probably put that either right before or after the database touches. So in essence, you're doing your phone work in the beginning, right? So you want to get your phone work out of the way, then you would pivot to the marketing, the email, the social media. And the reason why we put the phone work in the beginning is for a lot of people, that's the heaviest lift, right, Emily? And Gary says, right, you do the hardest thing first. And for a lot of people, it's that. So we would highly recommend, if you're going to be doing over the phone on the off markets, you put that at the beginning right there with your database.
Yep. And if you don't have an appointment in the afternoon, then you would pick that back up.
Yeah, Andrew, the merging. If you want to see like how to merge, a lot of people have questions, Emily. I noticed that, when we would train this, when we started training this a while back, number one question was, how do I get my letter to merge with my database so it says Dear Emily? If you go to our Facebook group, which is the Mega Listing Agent, in there, if you go to, I think, videos or files, there's a video where we walk you through, if you're using Google Docs, how to merge. If you're using Microsoft Office, there's an actual button that you hit. And I just had someone who uses like Mac Pages and Numbers, which I didn't know anybody uses those. There's also, in that I learned, a button just like Microsoft Office. But if you're using Google G Suite, we show you how to do it because it's not as straightforward. Great question. All right. So Emily, I was asking you earlier, and we kind of already gave the answer, but the schedule seems easy, right? Wow, that's all I have to do each day, just those little things. But the biggest pitfall on why agents either start this and stop it or they never start it, what's the biggest pitfall that we've learned over the years of training on this?
Preparation.
Yeah, we already said it a little bit earlier, but to execute on this flow does take preparation. So don't underestimate that you do have to answer some questions about how you're going to organize your database such that you can identify who the 15 are each morning. Because if you don't, is it going to take you more than 45 minutes to get through them? For some of you,
Yeah.
it takes 5 hours.
Yeah. And here's the thing in that, right? Is it's so key and important to plan your lead gen, lead follow up in advance. So, for example, you might on Fridays, if you're like me, I like to plan on Friday mornings. You might on Friday plan your next 7 days on Friday. I have some people who like to do it on Sunday, right? That's great. Some of my people like to do it first thing Monday. That's great. Some people like to do midweek. That's also great. There's no best day to plan or best time to plan. It's the time that you're actually going to do it. So it's a time where you're going to sit down for an hour and go, all right, who are my 75 people that I'm touching in the database next week? Am I going to actually log into my CRM or should I just print a list and carry it with me everywhere and make the notes, right? Who are the 125 people that I'm sending the letter to, right? If I pull a list, meaning I have a buyer need and the neighborhood has 377 properties, I'm just going to work through that list. And I know that I'm going to work through that list for the next couple, 2 to 3 weeks, right? Um, who are the 5 professionals that I'm going to email, right? It's not hard to compile who it is. It just takes time for you all to have a block on your calendar to identify the 75, the 125, the 5, and so forth, and your social plan.
Yeah, and the success comes from the compounding effects of these small things happening each day. 25 letters alone isn't going to do squat, but now 125 for the week or 500 for the month, but 5 sent out for the week, 20 for the month. Okay, that now will bring you results.
That's right.
So don't underestimate the compounding effect that if we stick to this every single day, right, what the results will be.
That's right.
All right, anything else before we move on?
Nope, I think
It's
we're
something
good.
so innocuous, simple schedule, right? Like we're back in school. You've got 5 periods here. If Gary was sitting on your shoulder, this is what it would look like. Okay, do this, now do this, now do this, now do this. Every single day. All right, we're good? All right,
Yep.
moving on. How often are you sending the golden letter? Well, if you're asking how often we're sending it to a list, only once. You're only sending it to a particular list one time. You can maybe get away with sending it a second time, but golden letters is not farming. You're going wide across various areas depending on. So when I send out my letters, I'm hitting each month. It's a different group of 500 every single month for the year. All right, great question. Moving on. Market data. All right, Emily, we're going to digest some graphs now, right?
Yep.
Why is market data so important as we kick off the year on listings?
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Gary always says we want it to be the economist of choice. What does that actually mean, though? Right? If we want to be the expert when it comes to the market, which I trust that everyone on this call wants to be an expert when it comes to the market, we need to understand what's happening from a macro level, which is a national level, to a micro level, which is your local level, right? And this data, once you understand the data and you can articulate the data, oh man, it does the heavy lifting for you from I want to wait. I want to wait and see what happens. I want to wait and see what the market does. Is now really a good time? I'm not really sure if it's a good time. All of that is noise because it's just uncertainty. They're just not clear. And as Brene Brown says, clear is kind. So these slides really do the heavy lifting on understanding, talk can sometimes be cheap, right? Meaning that we can, how many times do people like, oh, the market's always great, right? The market's great. It's always the best time, right? But what does that mean, right? So these slides, when people can see something, they can't unsee it, right? It can go one ear and out the other, like, oh, I don't really think it's a good time. But when they see facts, facts can trump feelings, right? And so if we're talking to sellers or your database or people ask you, what do you think is going to happen with the real estate market this year? How do you think that the real estate market's going to do? What are you seeing out there? I heard this, right? A lot of talk over the holidays, I'm sure, with all your sphere, right? Around what's going on. So this slide is the number of home sales annualized and millions year over year since 1990. So if we look at this and we can see the height of home sales was 2005, right? Now, when you ask people, I'm sure you heard about, back in the day, the big real estate market crash, right? People will typically say any of years from 2006 to 2010-ish, usually is what they say. And then, yeah, and you can see that, right? Because 2006 to 2007, we had the largest drop in number of sales in history. And then it bottomed out in 2008. And then you see where it kind of is stagnant and then it starts to go up and the market's getting strong, right? We had the big boom of COVID, right? And then you'll see we peaked at 2021. And then what's happened? Does that look familiar? Now, here's the thing that we have to understand as professionals that are working with sellers. Sellers care about the money. They care about their net. Can we all agree on this call that sellers want top dollar, right? A lot of sellers want 2021 pricing in the year of 2026, right? And unfortunately, we're not, unfortunately, genies to make that happen. And at the same time, if we go to the next slide, what is very fascinating about this is when you compare these two slides of home sales and home prices. So remember, I'm going to take you back to what we just showed. So we'll stay on this slide, but so 2005 was the height of number of home sales. However, we peaked in pricing in 2006. And then remember the 2006 to 2007, the largest drop in US history of number of home sales. What happened with prices from 2006 to 2007? They barely they stayed the same, right? Like that's what happened. And here's the thing, when the market bottomed out at 2008 and number of home sales, here's what's interesting. Look at that. From 2007 to 2008, it was just a slight adjustment. We didn't actually bottom out until 2011 on pricing. So here's what's important to notate about this, okay? When the market shifts, the number of home sales is the leading indicator to the market. The pricing is the lagging indicator. It takes time for the market to readjust. So when you read like Shift, right, from Gary and Jay, when you read those books or you may hear economists or real estate professionals say every 7 to 10 years, the real estate market cycles. This is what they mean, y'all, is that look, it took until 2015 to get back to 2006 prices. It's 9 years. So it takes time to adjust. So remember, it kind of looks familiar what's happening in the last few years, right? The last 3, 4 years, it looks similar. Now, there are economic factors that are different, right? That obviously, change some of the outcomes. However, prices are sustaining. So the question is, for how long? I don't know. You don't know. No one knows, right? That's the thing is unfortunately we don't have a crystal ball. I wish we did. We'd all make a lot more money, right? There's no timing the market, and yet history does tend to repeat itself. Can we all agree with that? So this chart may look deceiving. We don't have, just full transparency, we don't have the finals of 2025 from NAR yet, given that it's only January 7th. So it'll be interesting to see if we're, how far above the trend line that we are with prices. So this is a macro, meaning national. Now, and a lot of our local markets, Aaron, what's happened with prices?
They've softened,
They've softened, meaning what?
meaning that prices are less right now than what they were a year ago.
That's right. So,
Unless you're in the Northeast, for all you Northeasterners. Yeah.
Yeah, the Northeast is definitely not slowed down. So that's the interesting thing. And this just gives people perspective, right? We're not here to sell someone that uh they need to make a decision like in our bias of the decision, right? That's not what we're doing. We're giving them perspective such that they make a decision because they're hiring us or they're interviewing us or they're talking to us to help them make a decision. The decision is theirs. Perspective is key.
And so, Emily, the reason why, and we're not done here, but the reason why we go through this with the seller at the appointment is because if you want them to listen to you when it comes to pricing, you have to establish yourself as the authority. Otherwise, they're going to be the authority and you're going to be at their whim of pricing, which is not going to help you convert those sellers to closings, correct?
That's exactly right. And stay tuned, y'all. Do not drop off because we're going to talk about the power of pricing here next. So Aaron, walk us through inventory monthly. What does this mean?
Yeah, so this is kind of natural. This is seasonal inventory. We always start off the year with the least amount of homes for sale. It gradually increases, right, through mid into the summer, and then you start to see inventory levels come back down. What's interesting though, if you look at these numbers, is there a huge change in the actual inventory levels from beginning of the year to the peak? There
No.
really isn't, right? People assume that there's these wild swings. The reality is it's a very gentle swing. Yet it doesn't mean that if we're meeting with a seller today on January 7th and they're asking, well, maybe we'll wait till the spring. Wait a minute. You want to wait until there's more competition versus putting the market on the home on the market now when there's less competition? To which point the seller says, yeah, but there's less buyers out there. Is there though? Is there? Because now, when we show them the actual sales, right, from January to December, there's nothing seasonal about this, Emily. I mean, this is pretty much flatline across the board. So the funny thing is, when you look out there, you're seeing almost the same number of buyers every single month, the same number of buyers every single month. So if I go back to inventory, now that I've spilled the bag on, hey, no, there aren't less buyers. In fact, there's the same amount of buyers today that there will be in 3 months. But right now, guess what? We have less competition. So do you want to put your home on the market now and sell it for more? Or should we wait until the spring and sell it for less? Because you're now going to be competing with another one or two neighbors. This is really compelling. This is really compelling to help them decide what time frame works best for them.
Yep.
All right. So that was the national market though, Emily, right? What should we be paying attention to in our own local markets?
Yeah, so again, we want to give perspective, right? We have macro, which is national, and then we have micro, which is local. So, what is your local month supply, right? A lot of times I've heard a lot throughout the last few years of, oh, we're in a buyer's market or oh, I mean, these sellers, it's just not a good time. And here's the thing, is that 100% true? What month supply are you at? Anything under 5 months supply is a seller's market. 5 to 7 is a balanced market. Anything over 7 is a buyer's market. So it's important because while sellers can say, like for example, in my market, I'll just give you an example, right? It can feel as though, oh, well, I see that things are taking longer to sell and it just seems like it's really not the best market to be a seller. And how I explain that to them is, hey, a couple of years ago, when we're, the good news is we're still in a seller's market. But let me give you some perspective. A couple of years ago, we were under 1 month supply here in Ozark. Okay. Under 1 month, meaning that we didn't have enough houses to support the amount of buyers that were in the market. That's all that means, right? So we were in an extreme seller's market. Now, today, we're at 3.1 month supply, meaning we've got about 3 months before, if nothing new came on the market, right, everything would sell, right? So you're still in a seller's market because it would take 5 months to even get balanced. So we're still in a super strong market. It's just we're not less than a month, right? We do have inventory. And that helps them from a decision making standpoint and like, is it actually what type of market. It also helps our own mindset, y'all, when things are hard or you're like, it is understanding that. Average days on market, average list to sales price, number of showings per listing. If you have if you're using a service like a showing time, right? So you know what to expect, what's the temperature of the market, number of price adjustments. Man, this has been a big one. Number of new listings, number of expireds and canceleds, another big one that we're starting that we've been seeing increase, and the number of pendings.
It's powerful data because when you have someone who's, challenging you or challenging the market on price, and you can point back to, okay, well, we know that month supply is up. We know days on market is up. We know that price reductions are up. We know that the number of new listings is up and the number of failed sales or failed listings is up. Uh, you tell me, what are you seeing that's showing you data that we should be increasing your price, not reducing your price? It's powerful.
Yep, that's right.
By the way, we can be in a seller's market and have softening prices, correct, Emily? Because that's for a lot of markets like mine. We have in San Diego, we have less than 3 months supply. It's like 2.8 last time we ran it.
Yep,
And yet we have softening prices. Why? Affordability.
yep,
It just comes down to affordability.
that's
All
right.
right. So we're going to solve one of the biggest dangers out there and one of the biggest objections that we get when we're at that listing presentation and they want to price it higher. They want to test the market. We just want to test the market. Can we at least try it? No, you cannot, seller. No, we can't say that. We have to explain to them, right? We have to explain to them the dangers of overpricing in a shifting market. And now at the listing appointment, we used to actually draw this out by hand, but I went ahead and made a little chart for you guys to kind of convey the concept because sometimes a visual helps a seller really understand. So in this scenario, Emily, the market is telling us that we should be listed at 500,000.
Hmm.
Okay? The seller's wanting to push it just a little bit. Let's just push it to 525. What's the worst that can happen? Well, let me tell you what's going to happen. If we lift it at 500,000, right, based on list price to sales price ratio, the reality is that means we're probably going to sell it somewhere around 490, right? Yet, if we push the market to 525, what's going to happen is we're going to get out there, we're going to sit on the market for a couple of weeks, and then you're going to come back to me and say, you know what, Aaron, you were right. The market wasn't there. Thanks for trying. Let's go ahead and now adjust it down to the price that the market was recommending at that 500. Wait a minute. But now, right, the market has moved away from us and 500 is no longer valid. But all we can get them down to is 500. And then we sit on the market for another couple weeks and we have to go back to them for a price adjustment, right? And we finally get the property sold at 475. So if they would have listed it at 500, it probably would have sold at 490. Yet trying to overprice it at 525 will cause you to chase the market down and sell it for less later rather than more now. So this is really counterintuitive. A lower asking price ends up in a higher sales price. And that's what this chart shows them. And when you can effectively explain this to them, right, it will help overcome that objection of, well, let's just push it, let's just try. You can, but let me share with you the dangers, right? A lower asking price means a higher sales price, and here's why. We don't want to chase the market down. We'd rather sell it for more now rather than less later. Choice is yours. Which strategy would you rather choose? It's their choice, but we need to be able to explain to them the dangers of pushing the market beyond where the market says it should be, pushing the price beyond where the market says it should be. All right, that's a fun one. That's an oldie but goodie. Man, we had to use that during the Great Recession, every single appointment. All right,
Yeah.
Emily, what do we have coming up for everybody?
Yeah, so we have two programs that we are launching next week. Take more listings now. So, if you're curious on our lead gen schedule, any of those strategies, whether it's expireds, canceled, for sale by owners, farming, golden letters, as we mentioned, database, professional referral partners, we go in in depth with the top strategies that are converting now, how to do it. It is a how to step by step with every single piece of information from the system to the dialogues, objection handlers, and so forth. So we go through that. We also go through our pre-list process in this and pre-appointment process, and then convert sellers to closings. That's appointment gone on. So we have a listing appointment. It's the whole consultation. So the full consultation, including preparation, pricing, price adjustments to close. So, what is your marketing plan? What is your value proposition? How do you, they're interviewing multiple agents. What do I say? This agent's doing it for a lesser compensation. What do I say? How do I overcome that? This person has a friend in real estate. What do I do? All of that, we go through all of those objections as well as our whole play. So we are Wednesday. I know it says Wednesday on both of those. I apologize, y'all. It's Wednesday, Thursday. So Take More Listings Now is Wednesdays from 1 to 2. Convert Sellers to Closings is Thursdays from 1 to 2. Essentially what we do is we run it simultaneously. It's kind of like drinking from a fire hydrant, but all sessions are recorded and available for playback 60 days post the last session. So you'll have all of it. You'll have workbooks, you'll have the slides, you'll have all the content that you need. We do a whole extra videos on golden letters, from mail merging to letter cleanup to all of that. I think there's like 10 videos, Aaron, that are just on
Yep.
golden letters that are included.
Yep.
But essentially the objections with golden letters, all of that. But essentially why we run it simultaneously is because when you actually execute on Take More Listings Now, you set listing appointments and then you reach out to us and go, wait a second, what do I do? What's your pre-list? What's this? What's this? And so that's why we run them simultaneously, such that when you're executing, you can convert the listing. What do you want to add, Aaron?
No, it's listen, it's Q1. And if you want to be plugged in each week such that you're focused on what you want to be focused on, whether it's taking more listings, converting the listings you have to more closings, or both, join us.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Outside of that, we trust that this was helpful and we will see you next week. Bye.
See you, everybody.